Hello, it's me, Danyell Carmelita, your favorite tarot reader and astrologer. Today, I am going to break down one of the most important things in astrology, which is the spring equinox. And I'm going to break down a chart. And this chart marks a moment where the sun enters Aries degree at 0 degrees. Is the beginning of the astrological new year, and it sets the tone for the rest of the year, not the rest, for the whole year. So for 2026, okay? And a lot of astrologers use this to look at global trends, political movements, economic shifts, and even some weather patterns. We're going to talk about all that in this video. I'm going to break it down. I'm also going to talk about Saturn and Neptune conjunction. That's a big doozy. That's a big part of it. We're going to talk about the stallion in Aries. That's basically meaning all these planets that are in the sign Aries. And then I'm going to talk about water influence as well. Okay. Yeah. So if you're into that, then we are going to get started. I'm going to bring up the chart now. Wait, actually, before I bring up the chart, I want to explain spring equinox. Okay, so spring equinox again is when the sun enters 0 degrees, and it marks the beginning of an astrological um, year. So Aries represents in astrology the beginning, new, birth. Okay, it is where, first of all, there's four cardinal parts in the zodiac sign. In the astrology wheel, forgive me, I am still sick, but we are doing our best at bounce back. Anyway, but there are four parts of where the year each starts, but there is one big part where it starts. Okay, so there's four cardinal signs, and that is Aries, it is Cancer, it is Libra, and then it is Capricorn, and that basically is the beginning of each season. Now, just like in regular calendar year, you know, the year, you do have each season, but you still have a New Year's. And this is the astrological New Year's. Now, this is where the day and the night are equally balanced. Okay. Now, another time that happens during this year is during Libra season. Now, when it's Cancer season, the sun is out longer, and when it's Capricorn season, when that starts, the nighttime is longer nights. Not longer nights, but the night is longer. Okay, so this is an equinox. There's a spring equinox. Again, that is the first. This is where the cycle resets. Any planet that enters Aries, it is resetting. Okay. Now that marks the sun. It does a year around the solar system. And now it is starting its reset. I hope that I'm explaining it okay. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, and that is why we have the reset. And we have holidays that represents this. So Aries represents new beginnings, initiation, action, life force, returning after winter is over. Those things that are dead, now things start to spring alive. They start to bloom. They start to begin to awaken. There's motivation, there's courage, there's starting something new, there's taking initiative, moving forward from the sleeping. You know how the bears hibernate and then they wake up in spring. So a lot of waking up in spring. A lot of holidays are celebrated during spring, and they represent this newness and rebirth. So it's so interesting how we've gone away astrologically from astrology and what it meant, what it means. And yeah, anyway, it's just so interesting as history, as we keep going, we take away the historical part of things. But the Persian New Year, and they celebrate this in Iran, Central Asia, different parts of Middle East. That is exact equinox, spring equinox. So I didn't know that. Let me know if you celebrate the Persian New Year. I know there's dates involved because when I go to the grocery store, dates are always gone. Easter. Now, that is what I'm familiar with. I was raised as a Christian. And so, Easter, and what is that? The resurrection of Jesus Christ. And it is a rebirth. You have eggs during Easter that represents birth as well, fertility. Bunnies also represent fertility. Spring flowers bloom, all that represents fertility and beginning. So what I'm telling you is that spring equinox represents a new year. Now, spring equinox this year is March 20th at 7:45 a.m. Is it Greenwich Central Time. So you have to check it in your time, but that's what time I have it on my natal chart here that I'm going to pull up. Now, before I even start to read the chart, because I'm going to read the chart and I'm going to give you all the predictions, I just want to explain what spring equinox means and how we can look at the predictions of it. Once that time starts, once the sun hits Aries degree, then we look at that natal chart. That's basically the year it is when that year is born. So that's the natal chart, and we can do predictions for that year, for the collective, and for global events. Okay. Now, before I get deeper into this chart, I have a quick question. Do you like astrological breakdowns? Do you like what I do? Well, if you do, it's time for you to subscribe. It's time for you to hit that thumbs up. Even write a comment. You could just throw an emoji down there. What is the color? I'm wearing brown. So anything brown, you could do that. Even if you love spring, throw some flowers on there, okay? That really helps me out. That gets the momentum of my video. I think you guys already know. You already know. So just give me my flowers, literally, and help me out. It helps supports this channel. It helps people who are creating videos and substance for you guys. It even helps them out, okay? So that is what we have. It takes 2 seconds for you to do that. 1, 2. Now we're moving on. Okay. Now let's look at the chart. I'm going to bring the chart up. And we are going to see what we have for our spring equinox. Okay. Let me see. There is some stuff I do want to. Okay. So Aries, here we are. Now, first thing I want to look at is Mars. Okay. That is my go to. I always look at the rising sign of the chart, and it is Aries. So we are going to look at Mars. That shows you how important Mars is for the collective. Mars is in the sign Pisces. Mars is not always in the sign Pisces, or the moon is not always in Aries, which is very interesting. If you keep looking at these every year, they're in different places. So I want to look at Mars, and what does that mean? Mars is the ruler of the year, right? And it is in the sign Pisces. It's not in the sign Aries. And Mars really in Pisces is kind of like lost in a sauce. Mars rules the year because I explained. I'm looking at my notes because I want to make sure everything is okay. So Mars in Pisces. Mars likes to be very direct, and in Pisces is not direct. Okay. So this is going to be very interesting. I'm going to explain too that there is a great trine with Jupiter while Mars is in Pisces. So this year, a lot of expansion and growth is very positive. That's good or bad, but this also could be expansion of conflict too. We'll get into that a little bit later. But Mars, usually if it's in Aries, is very bold, is very fast, is very competitive, it's very aggressive, it's very action orientated. When it's in Pisces, it's very compassionate, it's very lost in a sauce, it's very spiritual, very religious, uh, a lot of ideologies, a lot of emotional sensitivity things, a lot of covert actions, a lot of confusion, and a lot of escapism. Okay. So this year, all of those things that I just said is what we're going to be seeing. A lot of people really compassionate and really having empathy for a lot of others. So, for example, if you see people getting lost, if you see people being confused, or if you see someone kidnapped, or the world is going to feel more compassionate, especially in a time of war. Okay. Now, when I say Mars and Pisces, this represents huge with religion. So, a lot of conflict with religion as well. Okay. Secret operations, religious movements as well, confusion around leadership, emotional responses, really big. Okay. We're going to see a lot of compassion driven action. We're going to see a lot of conflicts when it comes to anything religious or spiritual base. Get ready for that. So, you're talking about globally, and you're talking about even within your community. So, what does that look like in your community? It could be like people fighting at a mosque, or people fighting at a church. Are Muslims and Christians fighting? I'm just throwing out different examples, but we all know what's going on around the world currently. This is going to be big this year. Okay. Now, Pisces is very water. So it can literally represent water. So a lot of fighting on the ocean, on the sea. Okay. A lot of oceans. There could be a lot of flooding, a lot of things dealing with what are the people who fight in a navy, marine too. Um, yeah, also too, Pisces, not just literal water, because that is a big thing for this year, but Pisces also represents again the spiritual part and also institutions. So big themes around religious places like churches and where you pray or where you seek spiritual guidance of some sort. So those are going to be big institutions as well. Institution is also a represents Pisces. So big themes in anything dealing with institutions, also prisons, anything dealing with psychotic, enclosing kind of places. Okay. Now, um, because Pisces doesn't have any boundaries. Okay. Pisces is oneness, compassion for all. And so we're all one kind of energy. Then the boundaries are going to be a big issue this year as well. Okay. So the lack of boundaries is what I should say, not the boundaries, but the lack of boundaries are going to be a big theme. Pisces also represents the insecure. So a lot of insecurity, a lot of cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. We had that last year because we had Neptune and Saturn in Pisces. Well, that's going to be a big theme this year as well. So huge themes of medication and drugs. Medication and drugs are the same when you're dealing with Pisces. So that's going to be a big theme for the year. Also, to people who need the drugs, people who depend on the drugs. So a lot of cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs and a lot of misunderstandings and confusions. Okay. I was saying lack and insecure. Pisces represents that. So any situation that deals with or more of a lack situation. Now, from my understanding of astrology, not my understanding, from my personal research of astrology, I find that Pisces energy also represents African Americans. I find out a lot of things, themes dealing with Pisces are very tied to African American too. So let's see what happens to African Americans. Africans, I haven't studied because African is such a big place. I haven't studied that, and I'm African American, so I just want to throw that out. But more of the less fortunate as well. Not the minorities, because minorities could be more Aquarius, but I find as a culture, African American Pisces energy is very strong. So let's see how that themes plays out. Now, what else I see in this chart is that Mars is at 14 degrees. 14 degrees, according to Nikolai, his degree theory, 14 degrees represents Taurus, and Taurus represents money, land, resources, and it's under Pisces. Okay, so Taurus is food, it is our earth, it is stability, it's tangible items, it is the voice, it is singing, it is luxuries. Okay, so again, so you have Mars, the planet of action and conflict and war. Okay, and your drive and your initiative and how we are moving forward. Then our physical energy too. Then you have Pisces, which is very compassionate and spiritual, and there's secrets and there's oneness and there's love, a lot of water themes, a lot of escapism, a lot of drugs, institutions like hospitals and spiritual places and prisons. Now you add that Taurus element to it. I know this may be confusing, but I'm trying to condense it so it could be understanding to you. And this is why every year is different, right? Because when you have it at a certain degree, that makes it different from the last time if Mars was in Pisces. Mars at Pisces at 14 degrees, now you have money involved, land, agriculture, resources, your food, your comfort, your stability. Yes, tangible items, right? Now, what does this look like when you put it all together? You are going to see some big things hidden, because Pisces represents hidden systems with finances. Okay, huge themes of economy. There could be something very international dealing with waters and finances and trade, not trade because that's more Mercury, but what we find financially important and value. There's going to be a huge theme with that. So either a lot of compassion with that, or a lot of confusion, or it gets lost. Okay, a lot of resources gets lost this year. There could be some charitable energy with this, but then also too with the charitable energy, it can be financially, it could be you could get some finances, or maybe a charity is shady. So let's see how that plays out. Disaster relief funds, humanitarian resources, refugee support, a lot of things with shortages with our crops. Water could be affecting farming, ocean and fishing industries. There could be something resourceful or lack of resources with that. Flooding, maybe with a farmland, coastal land, there's some concerns with that. Environmental protections, that could be a thing too. um Mars in Pisces, and then you have that Taurus element added to it, makes things move very slow. Taurus likes to be steady, it likes to be determined, it's focused on security, it's financially driven, there's it likes to persevere. And then when you have Pisces, again, it's lost in the sauce. So things are moving very slowly, but spiritually and religiously. Now, I don't think things will be moving that slow, because we'll get into that a little bit later, but there is a slow element added to anything that's pursuing any of the religious aspects or anything that's dealing with confusion. So I just want you to understand that. Let me see: emotional motivation, empathy, spiritual drive. I think I said that. Food production, land disputes, water affecting agriculture. Pisces also represents oil, so that's not a shocker. Big themes with oil as well. And then if we value it, is it a resource? That's that Taurus part too. Mars is the aggression and fighting over it too. Banking tied to large institutions. Taurus also represents finances. Okay, so even that could be, even if you finances is digital currency, credit cards, all that stuff, banking, stocks, that all represent that. Now, because Mars is trining Jupiter, this is great. This is a water trine. A lot of your intuition, your emotional unity, compassion, the collective, the identity of the collective, and feeling a lot of love is great. Right now, Jupiter is expansive. It deals with law. It deals with leadership. It deals with international affairs. Again, it's very religious. Abundance and wealth. It's our good luck planet. Now, when it doesn't work its best, it's very expansive in a bad way. But in sign Cancer, you're dealing with homeland, you're dealing with national security, you're dealing with family values, and you're dealing with protection of land and protection of people. Cancer is it likes to be very secure and safe, even though it's a newness. So it's like a new homeland as well. Now, Mars trining Jupiter says that maybe the military is going to be protective this year. Strong national identity. There's movements towards that. Emotional unity among populations. Religious motivations here, and to feel safe with the religion, or even adding a more spiritual aspect to religion, because religion could be very read the book, but it's also like a feeling could be adding to that religion. Protective energy from the government, possibility. Nationalism, huge. Okay, now I've learned that even the enemy can have the blessing with the trine. Okay, so this could be really good for people who are trying to have a war. This could work really good. It could be very expensive, and they can have more of what they consider a homeland. But I have a video separately on Jupiter in Cancer and my predictions on that. But what we can look forward to this year is more themes of homeland. It seems a little bit more positive because we have this trine here. At the same time, it's more positive when it comes to war or conflict or aggression. So I just want to add that part. Now, if we want to talk about the moon, I want to bring attention to the moon because that represents the people, which is us, the collective. Spring equinox chart, the moon represents emotional mood of the public. The moon also represents our passion. Well, it's in Aries, so it's going to represent our passion, but more the sensitivity side. It's very interesting because the moon is sitting next to Venus, is sitting next to Chiron. So, what is this going to mean for us? Now, the moon is the ruler of Jupiter, which is in the sign Cancer. So, it's involving how is that trine going to be happy with our emotions? How is that going to work? Okay, so the moon represents the public, collective emotional climate. It represents women, mothers, homes, safety, families, everyday people, the national mood. Okay, let me see the emotional mood too. So if it's in the sign Aries, that means we are dealing with impulsivity, a lot of anger, a lot of courage, a lot of protest, a lot of bravery, a lot of fast energy. So people are going to be moving fast. They're going to feel things are moving fast. They're going to feel like things are very new because Aries represents the beginning, the newness. A lot of people speaking quickly, being very impulsive. The emotional reactions of leaders are probably going to be bigger than ever. A lot of bold, aggressive public movements too. Very impatient energy. It doesn't like to be It doesn't like to be patient. So it's very impulsive energy. Now, when it's conjunct, so that's what we have overall for the people. Okay, so get a lot of people are being brave too. So get ready for people being more brave than ever. A lot of new warriors, a lot of new people speaking up. Okay, now it's conjunct Chiron. So Chiron represents that the people will be feeling the wounds are going to be it's going to need some healing. This could represent some trauma. This could be representing that there is a group of people getting some healing, a collective healing. Also, this exposed to pain a lot too when that moon is conjunct Chiron. Collective wounds come to surface, emotional sensitivity around your identity, around your independence, around the self, around a leader, around someone exposing or being very impulsive too. Social justice movements, public discussions around trauma, emotional reactions to injustice energy, but also a lot of healing, a lot of healing others too. Now we have Venus sitting next to it too. Venus is very positive. Not very, it's positive, just like Jupiter's positive. So this year is not, I know we have a lot going on. So I don't want to take away of what is currently going on. This represents the astrological year. Okay. And this is different for each country. So there is that. But globally, we are talking about a huge collective for this astrological year. Now, I want you to understand that when you have conjunctions, they're good or bad, but they are strong. Okay. So I'm going to talk about the good and bad. So just like I said, there's either healing or there's a wound when it's sitting next to Chiron. So you're going to get that for a large collective of people. Now, when you have Venus sitting here, Venus could represent a lot of things. It represents our relationships, values, our money, being diplomatic. Are we having harmony? It also represents women. It represents any type of team as well. Socializing, huge with that. Okay. So a lot of people will have new social things, very like, oh, we decided to go to this new type of way of partying. I don't know any way to explain that, but you have that. Let me see what else we have. Strong public reactions to economy, debates around relationships and gender issues, emotional investments in cultural values. So Venus in Aries is very fast in love. And so then you're going to have a lot of people really trying to be very aggressive when it comes to their harmony and balance. This is a lot of impatience when it comes to the law and the structures of rules, for people to have fairness. So get ready for that. Let me see what else. Fairness, finances, again, huge theme about finances. And I talked about that with Mars already being the ruler at 14 degrees. Venus represents the money, it's what we naturally attract. So this is going to be a good or bad, but there's going to be a huge theme with that as well. Anything dealing with women, this is a year for the women. There's going to be a huge theme with that. Whether it's good or bad, it's going to happen. Okay. So we have that, and it's in the sign Aries. So this again, newness, a rebirth, a restart. Aries also represents being very aggressive in war. Okay, so you have all these things happening, and it's very feminine energy as well. Venus. Okay, so I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to get too complicated. So that is what we have so far for the year. Okay. Again, I have to give you a reminder that I am under the weather, so I'm trying to mentally get it out without being sick and still, be normal. Anyway, okay. So let me see what else we have. The moon here. The moon is actually not doing great. The moon, Venus, it's not doing great with Jupiter. Okay. Again, Venus is positive, Jupiter is positive. So usually when these two things have a negative aspect, sometimes that outcome turns out positive. Just want you to know. But Jupiter is going to expand things. It's going to make things bad when it gets bigger. So For example, I had Jupiter. I'm a sun in Cancer, so I have Jupiter is in a sign Cancer, and when Jupiter was sitting on top of my sun, my stomach, my womb literally got big, and I had to have a surgery. So it was expanding in that negative way, right? I had fibroids removed, but it was very huge, like not normal, right? Like I looked like I was pregnant with twins. Okay. So that's how literal Jupiter expands things. So it's going to expand a lot of things for the people. There's going to be a huge expansion of newness with home or something being very aggressive with home. Okay. That is what you have. Jupiter also represents law. So, law and home, religion, um, higher education, our moral beliefs. Again, Cancer represents our homeland, it represents our family, it represents our protection, our national identity. So, the emotions and the people, that is going to be a huge theme this year, an exaggeration of safety in our homeland and what do I identify as a nation. That's going to be big. Now this is going to be a huge thing with immigration, right? We know that with national security, um, family policies, your physical home, people losing homes, people buying homes, that's also a theme. Also too, I want you to know just these two alone, you already hear the start of businesses, people losing businesses, because I want you to understand that Aries represents the entrepreneur. It represents the person who goes on their own and they have their independence of some sort. And there's going to be big themes with that. So you financially getting your own money, either there's a start there or you financially losing that finances, there will be a negative towards that. Remember, I told you good or bad but strong. Okay. Let me see, larger than life though, energy here when you have Jupiter here. I've already talked about Jupiter in Cancer. I should link the video down below. I will link it down below, Jupiter in Cancer video, so you can, if you want to know more about the predictions. But I talked about homeland and I talked about war a long time ago, but here we are. Okay. Now, let me see what else we have. Emotionally charged, passionate about values is what you get with this. Reactive to leadership decisions, protective of your family and homeland, public demonstrations. Again, about the homeland, not demonstrations, but a huge theme with the public and homeland and safety. Yes, so you have that as well. Okay. I hope I explained that part. We're moving on. Okay. So, also this year, we have a huge stallion in Aries. Okay. There are a lot of planets in Aries. Okay. We have the sun, which that's normal, but we also have Neptune. We also have Saturn, not normal. Okay. We have Venus, we have the moon, and we have Chiron in Aries. Okay. All these planets are in Aries. Aries, again, huge theme this year. Hold on. Let me take a sip of water. So, Aries, there is a strong theme of war, a strong theme of conflict, leadership, military activity, weapons, aggression, independence, identity, the initiators, the pioneers. Aries is not just a cardinal sign because cardinal represents the first, but Aries is also a fire sign. So a lot of passion, a lot of passion. Okay. Also, too, literally represents fire. Fire, fire, fire everywhere. Okay. Aries also represents sharp objects, red and blood. Okay. So that's the negative side. But the positive side is that Aries does move fast. So things will be moving fast on the good part. And I mean, that could be good or bad. Aries does represent the self and the I and the strongness of the individual, which is very positive for a lot of people who are trying to initiate something and who's trying to start something. Okay. Um, and the visibility of the self as well. Okay. Let me see, beginning something, leadership as well. Also too, from history, the planets being at 0 to 2 degrees or these early degrees. See, even Saturn at 4 degrees. The last time we had that was in 1861. And if you look up the Civil War in 1861, Saturn that year was at 4 degrees. It was retrograding, then it went to 2 degrees when Neptune entered 0 degrees. Again, a sign of war, which I've said in previous videos, but I want to point that out. Also, too, So we have this fire energy, we have aggression, we have newness, we have a rebirth, we have a restart, represents leadership as well. Strong themes in that. And we also have water. We have three planets in water, more, not, I shouldn't say planets, but celestial beings and bodies in water. And water represents emotions, collective. This is also water. So one, two, three, four, right? In water. And it represents emotions, collective psychology, again, literal water. So the ocean, the sea, the lake, any type of weather patterns that deal with water. Um, Compassion, humanitarian energy. So, again, no boundaries, a lot of refugees, a lot of spiritual movements, a lot of confusion, a lot of misinformation, a lot of things being lost, but a lot of clarity when it comes to your emotions. There's a lot of emotional intelligence. There's ending and closing, because this represents the end and closing. There is something that could be a release and forgiving as well. Now, Pisces has no limits. Whatever it touch, it dissolves. So there could be some unclear leadership. Okay, just be aware of that. There could be a very blurred boundaries with politics. A lot of psychological or emotional narratives, they could be dominating the public and the collective this year. Okay, now when you have water and fire, what is that a song? It's very steamy. I think of evaporation. I think of like boiling water, literally boiling water. Emotionals reacting and turning into action. Explosive emotional responses. A lot of dramatic weather patterns. You get that again. Storms, hurricanes, just harsh weather. Let me see. Again, I don't know what is the weather that involves water and heat. If you know that, put that in the comments and help us out. But that is also what you get. But those things together is what we're going to get. So that steamy kind of energy is what you're going to get. Okay. Now, also, to what I noticed this year is not only do we have water, we have fire. Okay. But we are lacking in the air, we are lacking in the earth. We only have one earth. We only have one air. Okay. So we're dominating in fire. So too much fighting, too much conflict, too much passion, too much fast energy. Don't say I didn't say that things are going to be moving fast this year. Strong emotions, strong lacking. But where's the communication? There's no communication. There's no logic. Where's the stability? There's no stability. Lack of earth, right? This year, you're going to have lack of stability. Infrastructure. Where's the structure? That's not happening. Economic issues, agriculture, grounding, instability in systems. Finances will be very uncertain this year. Difficulty maintaining any type of structure. And because we only have one planet in air this year, get ready for air represents communication. It represents socializing too, a very social kind of energy. So get ready for social media having some issues. Could represent negotiation. It does represent literally the air, the sky. There's going to be some issues there. Again, airplanes, because there's lack of air. Okay. Intellectual reasoning. So poor communication between leaders, that could be a possibility. Lack of truth, lack of clarity also too, people reacting emotionally instead of logically. Also lack of research and surveillance when it comes to speech. Okay. Let me see what else we have here. I just want to talk about Saturn. So we talked about the economy, public leaders, conflict, war. This does represent a lot of newness with leaders too. So a lot of new leaders coming up to the forefront, definitely happening. I want to talk about Saturn and Neptune conjunct. I have a series on this. I will link it down below. Check out that video. Please check out that video. But I explained Saturn and Neptune several times. If you are in my paywall, if you are a part of my community, I even go more detailed. I explain it hopefully in more simpler terms. I have things written down. I have a lot of predictions with that too on my paywall. So a lot of things I've already discussed with Saturn conjunct Neptune. This is a 36-year cycle. And what happens is this is not just the spring equinox, but this year also represents Oh, let me have some water. And also I have a headache. Oh, you guys, I'm trying. I tried to I feel like I need to let me actually get some throat spray. I need to get some throat spray cuz my throat is itching. Whew, okay. You guys, I have this throat spray. All my stuff is very natural. But let me do it again. It's basically honey. If you guys want to see my throat spray, it is manuka honey and propolis. Yes, but trying to have a kick in. Anyway, I wanted to explain that there's a new cycle happening with Saturn and Neptune. So not only do we have this new spring equinox, but we have this new Saturn. This happened in 1989 in the sign Capricorn. I apologize for the coughing. In 1989, this is when the Berlin Wall fell. Okay, this is when it collapsed. In 1952, it was in Libra, and this is when restructuring of alliances and global, um, di- I can't say the word, diplomacy. For some reason, that word's hard for me to say. In 1917, we also had this, and this is when the Russian Revolution happened. From what I remember in my notes, Russia is big with this conjunction. I've talked about that several times. Vladimir Putin is big with this conjunction. So we'll see a lot more themes with that. And when Saturn goes away, then we'll have a new story. Saturn stays in Aries for 2.5 years in each sign. Neptune stays in there way longer, okay? So Saturn represents structure, governments, institution, law, discipline, reality. Neptune represents, and I'll go deeper into Neptune because it'll stay there longer, but it represents dreams, it represents illusions, spirituality, mass consciousness, compassion, deception, inflation, speculation, bubbles, like literally being in a bubble, not seeing, being in a cloud, your head is in the clouds, illusions around value, um, chemistry, medicine, ultra states. Okay. So Neptune in Aries does represent inflation. So I just want you to know that. And also doing the restructuring of institutions, collapsings of institutions, propaganda versus the truth, collective confusion before you get clarity, consequences for any type of new medication. I have a video on Ozempic and astrology. So go ahead and look at that. Aries, again, financially is very impulsive. Things move fast. There's speculative energy. There could be something new happening too, because it represents the newness. Saturn is going to regulate it though, right? It's going to make the reality of things. So there could be some newness when it comes to anything dealing with the loss or the insecurity or medication and drugs. And there's regulation with that too. Okay. Let me see if I have anything else here. I want to spray again. Um, okay, so Neptune and Aries at early degree. It's going to be huge themes with floods, deception, illusions, the immune system. This conjunction too in this placement also DNA and what embodies the body. Also, too, I had that in my notes and I know where that went, but that's gone. The identity of self. So we have that. That happens again this year. Now my throat it's like Daniel, stop talking. So let me quickly say some other things. We have Uranus in Taurus. We have Pluto in Aquarius. Okay, Uranus in Taurus again this year. There is a huge theme with food. I talked about Taurus, but when Uranus is in Taurus, still changing the diet, thinking different about diet, the way you look at food, the way you value food, fast food probably will be a complete difference this year. New technology with food, lab grown food, regenerating farming, all that's going to be big this year. Financial disruptions, huge. Currency innovation, changing it to more digital. That will probably happen more this year as well because Uranus will turn into Gemini. Now, then we have resources awareness, huge. Land changing, farming changing, what we consume, what we own, what we value. That happens. Okay. Also, to this astrological year, just Jupiter in Cancer. Again, that is a lot of themes in your birth rates, fertility, being a mom, motherhood, family policies, childcare, real estate, domestic security, national identity, cultural pride. What is your pride? What is your home? That's a big theme for this year. Lastly, Pluto in Aquarius. And Pluto represents transformation, is very intense, is very power hungry. In Aquarius, it represents technology, networks, collective systems, revolution, social movements. A lot of people boycotting and striking. I have a video on Pluto in Aquarius, so you want to add that on to what I'm telling you here. Again, AI, power struggles. AI, AI, AI. Big theme this year. Technology control versus freedom, social movements, digital economy. That's about the third time I said that. So listen up and listen well, okay? Shifts in collective power. This is power to the people. So we still have that. That's going to be very strong. This is advancement in a lot of futuristic things that will be happening again this year. This is big on space. So the discussion of space, the innovation of space, knowing about space. Pluto is an investigator. So the secrets of space and what we don't know about space is big. Anything that I discussed, so the secrets of social media, the secrets of the intellect, if someone said they're intelligent and are not, that may be researched this year. Pluto is sextile Neptune here. That's great, right? So this sextile is very important because that means there's support for the collective. And again, Pluto is transformation, Saturn is reality. So there could be a change, and Saturn represents government. There could be a change in government, a restructuring of government, or rebuilding some institutions, or anything long term, society, or reforms, or restrictive as well, are with boundaries, a transformation of boundaries, right? War at boundaries and changing the boundaries of something. Now, Pluto and Neptune, those two combinations is having an awakening and a change in the compassion of things, exposing propaganda. That one I find is huge. Now, if you want to do that this year, it's going to work out for the best. Spiritual transformation, huge with that energy too. Pluto just touching that Aries energy is going to be a lot of new things and changing and flipping a table and looking at leaders and researching it. And if you want to do that this year, the God's got your back. He's supporting you. Okay. Sun is also going to sextile Uranus, and the sun represents the ego. It represents authority. It represents leadership. Again, national identity. Yeah, and now it's going to do something new. It's going to be very out of the box. It's going to be dealing with technology, the ego and technology, the ego and being brave with fighting for the people, fighting for the cause as well. Okay, so major themes for this year. We got a lot of resources. There's going to be a shift in resources, a huge thing in family and homeland, technology changing, of course, because we got that Pluto in Aquarius, innovative leadership as well. Um, Everything that represents Aries. Conflict, war, blood, fighting, newness, leadership, bravery, impulsiveness, moving fast, huge themes added to the water element of compassion and emotional intelligence and ending and surrendering. Okay. That is what we have for this year, with this powerful Aries energy and the influence of the water signs and this historical Saturn Neptune conjunction beginning this new cycle this year. Major shifts in ideology, leadership, and collective consciousness. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys subscribe, like, and comment. Do your due diligence, and I will see you guys in the next video. Maybe it will be pre-recorded. We'll see. Okay, I'll see you guys next time. Bye. Oh, why isn't that playing?